I was frying eggs when my phone rang. The number was blocked. I almost didn't pick up. God, I wish I hadn't. Miss Carter. A calm female voice. Too calm. Yes. This is Officer Daniels with Child Protective Services. We've received a report regarding your daughter, Mia. We need to schedule an in-home visit. For a moment I thought I'd misheard her. I turned the stove off, my hand trembling so badly I almost dropped the spatula. I'm sorry, what? We received an anonymous report alleging neglect and possible emotional harm. Her tone didn't waver, didn't soften, didn't apologize. Are you available tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Neglect. Emotional harm. The words echoed in my skull like a migraine. I glanced at Mia, sitting cross-legged on the living room carpet, braiding her doll's hair, humming to herself. Her messy ponytail, her tiny socks, her little laugh that had kept me sane through 2 of the hardest years of my life. What does the report say exactly? I asked, my throat dry. I'm not authorized to disclose the source, Daniels replied. We'll review everything tomorrow. And that was it. Call over. No comfort. No explanation. No life raft. I stood there in my silent kitchen, heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. And then like clockwork my phone buzzed again. A text this time. From my mother. I warned you this would happen if you kept shutting us out. My mother had always believed that Mia wasn't mine. Not literally, of course. She knew I'd carried her, birthed her, nursed her through fevers. But in her mind, Mia was a continuation of herself, another chance to shape a child exactly the way she thought a child should be shaped. That's how she treated me too growing up. Like a project. Not a person. When I was 8, she cut my hair in the kitchen because she decided it was too wild, and made me look like the wrong kind of girl. I cried the whole way through, my hair falling like dead weight into the sink. She said, "Stop making it about you. I'm fixing what you'll thank me for later." When I was 12, she read my diary and grounded me for ungrateful thoughts. She didn't apologize. She said, "In this house, privacy is just selfishness with a prettier name." And when I was 17, the night I told her I'd been accepted into a college across the country, she didn't smile or hug me. She just whispered, "You'll regret leaving me." She was wrong. I didn't regret it. Not then. Not ever. But she never forgave me. Every visit after that, every holiday, every Sunday dinner, was laced with her little jabs. Mothers know best. You were lost until I set you straight. I don't want Mia to make the same mistakes you did. I ignored it. I brushed it off. Until last year. The fight. The one that ended it all. She had barged into my apartment while I was at work, using the spare key I told her 100 times to give back. When I came home, Mia was crying in her room, her toys shoved into boxes. My mother stood in the hallway holding garbage bags. "She's coming to live with me," she said, calm as if she were announcing the weather. I laughed. A short broken sound. "You've lost your mind. She deserves stability, not your chaos. You can visit her, of course." That's when I realized she wasn't threatening. She was planning. I grabbed the bags from her, shoved them out the door, and screamed at her to never come back. That was the last time we spoke. Until that text. "I warned you this would happen if you kept shutting us out." The eggs on the stove had burned by then. The whole apartment smelled like smoke. But all I could smell was her. The knock on the door came exactly at 10:04 a.m. 2 people stood in the hallway. A woman in a navy blazer with a clipboard, and a man in a gray polo with a polite, unreadable smile. Both had badges. Both looked practiced in the art of not showing judgment on their faces. "Miss Carter." "Yes. I'm Officer Daniels. This is my colleague Mr. Ruiz. We're with Child Protective Services. May we come in?" My stomach twisted. My instinct screamed no. But saying no would make me look guilty. So I opened the door. Mia peeked out from behind my leg, clutching her doll. Daniels smiled down at her. Too bright, too professional. "Hi there, sweetheart. Don't worry, we just need to ask your mom a few questions." We sat at the kitchen table. Ruiz glanced around, making small notes. The tidy living room. The fridge covered in Mia's drawings. The stack of school forms on the counter. I wanted to scream, "See? This is normal. We're fine." Daniels adjusted her glasses. We received a report alleging that Mia has been left alone for extended periods, that she often appears unkempt, and that there may be verbal mistreatment in the home. How do you respond to these concerns? I froze. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Left alone? Unkempt? Verbal mistreatment? The lies were like fingerprints. I could see exactly whose hands they come from. My daughter is never left alone, I said evenly. I work from home. She's cared for every single day. Daniels nodded, jotting something down. And the verbal mistreatment? I actually laughed. Bitter. If by mistreatment you mean I don't let her eat candy for breakfast, then sure. They didn't laugh. I wanted to pull out photo albums, daycare records, her perfect attendance, her teacher's glowing emails. I wanted to throw them all on the table and shout, look. But I knew that wouldn't matter. Not yet. Because in this game, accusations are louder than proof. Then Daniels said it. The caller stated that Mia sometimes comes home frightened, saying you yell at her and call her names. My heart stopped. Not because it was true, but because I remembered. The fight. The last fight. The one with my mother, in my living room. Her voice rising and rising until Mia burst into tears. And then her words. The exact words. I'm not the problem, you are. You're the unfit one. You're unstable. One day everyone will see it. That's when I realized. She hadn't just reported me. She had rehearsed it. Can we speak with Mia alone? Daniels asked. The words hit me like a punch to the ribs. I wanted to scream no over my dead body. But again, saying no would make me look guilty. Mia looked up at me with wide, worried eyes. It's okay, baby, I whispered. They just want to ask you a few things. You can tell them the truth. I'll be right here when you're done. She nodded bravely, but her tiny hand clung to mine until the very last second. Ruiz led her into her room, leaving the door cracked. I sat at the table, staring at the wood grain, hearing only fragments of her soft voice. Then silence. Then Ruiz's voice, calm, low. Then more silence. Felt like hours. When they came back, Mia's eyes were glassy. She ran straight into my arms and buried her face in my shirt. My blood boiled, not at her, never at her, but at the situation, the insinuation, the invasion. Daniels closed her folder. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll need to follow up, of course, and we may request additional documentation from Mia's school. That's fine, I said tightly. Is there anything else? Her professional smile returned. No, not at this moment. Thank you for your time. When the door shut behind them, Mia whispered against my chest. I told them you don't yell at me. I told them Grandma's the one who yells. Tears stung my eyes. I kissed her forehead. You did perfect. But the truth was I wasn't fine. I was shaking so hard I had to grip the counter to steady myself. Because this wasn't over. I knew my mother. She wouldn't stop. And that's when it hit me. The fight. The last one. I had screamed at her to leave, and in her rage she had spat venom, pacing my living room, threatening me, mocking me. I'd been so furious that I pulled out my phone and hit record. Proof of her trespassing, I told myself. Proof of how unhinged she was. I'd forgotten all about it. Until now. I opened my files, scrolling back months, hands trembling. And there it was. 1 full hour of my mother digging her own grave. I sat on the edge of my bed that night, phone in hand, Mia asleep down the hall. The apartment was silent except for the low hum of the fridge. I pressed play. Her voice filled the room immediately, sharp and poisonous. You think you're a mother? You're a joke. That little girl would be better off anywhere but here. I could hear myself in the background, begging her to leave, trying to keep my voice low so Mia wouldn't be more frightened than she already was. But my mother didn't care. She kept going. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. Neglectful. Irresponsible. Unstable. I'll take her from you if it's the last thing I do. There it was. Clear as day. My stomach turned as I listened. To the threats, to the venom, to her pounding on Mia's bedroom door while my baby cried inside. Every word was time-stamped, recorded, undeniable. And yet, I hesitated. Because using this meant war. Not the Cold War we'd been in for years, silent treatments, guilt trips, family gossip. This would be nuclear. I shut the recording off. My thumb hovered over the share icon. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. From her. You won't win. You never do. CPS listens to me, not you. Something snapped. For 30 years I had swallowed her poison, convinced myself silence was safer, that peace was worth the bruises to my pride. But this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about Mia. I opened my email app. I drafted a message to Officer Daniels. The subject line: evidence regarding false report. I attached the file. My finger trembled over the send button, and then I pressed it. Some wars you don't choose. They're chosen for you. 2 days later my phone rang again. Same blocked number. Miss Carter, this is Officer Daniels. Her voice was different this time. Still professional but lighter. Less suspicion, more respect. I've reviewed the recording you sent us. I also forwarded it to my supervisor. We want to thank you for your cooperation. I gripped the phone tighter. And, she continued, it's clear that some of the allegations we received may not be credible. This changes the scope of our investigation. I exhaled a shaky breath I hadn't realized I was holding. So what happens now? We'll still complete our assessment, but we'll also be opening a separate inquiry into the individual who filed the report. Filing false allegations is taken seriously, especially when a child is used as leverage. Leverage. The word made my stomach twist. That's exactly what Mia had been to my mother all along, leverage, a pawn, a weapon sharpened against me. Ms. Carter, Daniels added, her voice gentler now, you're doing everything right. Keep records of any contact. Document everything. And if she approaches you or Mia directly again, call the police. Thank you, I whispered. After we hung up, I sat on the couch staring at the blank TV screen, my reflection pale and still. Relief should have washed over me. Instead, I felt the ground shifting, because if I knew my mother, she wouldn't crawl away in shame. She'd double down. And I was right. That evening, a letter slid under my apartment door. Folded, handwritten, furious. You're trying to ruin me. You think a stupid recording makes you smarter than me? Everyone knows you're unfit. I'll fight you until you lose everything. Remember, I raised you. I know your weaknesses. I stared at her handwriting, jagged and frantic. And for the first time in my life I wasn't afraid. Because now I had proof. By the weekend my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Not from CPS. From family. Cousins. Aunts. Even my godmother, who hadn't spoken to me in years. I heard you're in trouble with Mia. Your mom is so worried about her granddaughter. Why would you drag CPS into family business? That's when I realized. She'd started her campaign. In her version of the story, she wasn't the one who barged into my home, screamed in my child's face, and threatened to take her away. No, she was the martyr. The grandmother forced to call CPS because her unstable daughter was putting a child at risk. And the family ate it up. Because of course they did. They always had. When I was little, she told people I was rebellious when I cried after she smacked me. She said I was dramatic when I locked myself in the bathroom to hide. She called me difficult, so many times I started to believe it. Now she was doing it again. But this time it wasn't just my reputation she was dragging through the mud. It was Mia's future. I felt that icy wave of panic again. The one that makes your chest tighten and your throat burn. But then I remembered. The recording. Not just the yelling. Not just the threats. But the part I'd nearly forgotten, her bragging. And when I tell them how you scream at that child, they'll believe me. They always believe me. I raised you to be weak. Her words. Clear. Arrogant. Damning. So when my cousin texted me, why would Grandma say that if it wasn't true? I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just sent the audio clip. Her reply came 5 minutes later. Holy shit. By the end of the day, that clip had spread through the entire family group chat. No commentary from me. No rant. Just her own voice, raw and undeniable. For once, the silence that followed wasn't aimed at me. It was aimed at her. It happened on a Tuesday evening. I was helping Mia with her math homework when the pounding started. Not a polite knock, fists slamming against my door like thunder. Open up, her voice shrieked. You think you can humiliate me? Mia froze, pencil hovering in midair. Her eyes went wide with fear. I stood slowly, my hand steady even though my pulse was a war drum. I told Mia, go to your room. Lock the door. Put your headphones on. She obeyed without a word. I opened the front door just enough to face her. She looked feral. Hair unbrushed, cheeks blotchy, eyes wild. Not the composed, church-smiling grandmother everyone knew. The mask was gone. "You ruined me," she spat. "Do you know what your uncle said to me today? Do you know what your own brother thinks of me now?" "You did that yourself," I said evenly. "I didn't twist your words. I just let people hear them." Her jaw trembled with rage. "You ungrateful little." "Careful." I cut her off, voice low. "I'm recording this too." Her mouth snapped shut. For a heartbeat, the hallway was silent. Just the sound of her ragged breathing, my calm one. The faint hum of Mia's music behind a closed door. Then she leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper. "You'll regret this. I'll drag you through court, through hell if I have to. You won't win. I always win." And for the first time in my life, I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "No. You just think you do." I shut the door in her face. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was final. Behind me, Mia peeked out of her room. "Mom?" she whispered. I bent down, hugged her tight, and kissed the top of her head. "It's okay, baby. She's not in charge anymore." But as I held her, I knew this wasn't just about closing the door. It was about deciding whether I'd keep it locked forever. The letter came 3 weeks later. Thick envelope. Official seal. Legal language that made my stomach twist. Petition for grandparent visitation rights. Of course, when manipulation and smear campaigns failed, she went for the courts. I sat at the kitchen table, Mia coloring quietly beside me, while I read the words again and again. She was claiming I was alienating my daughter, denying her meaningful family connection. She wanted court-ordered access. My hand shook as I flipped through the pages. She had even attached supporting statements, cousins she had bullied into signing, friends of hers who barely knew me, all painting her as a loving grandmother and me as the bitter, vengeful daughter. I wanted to vomit. Not just at the audacity, but at the thought of Mia being forced back into that woman's orbit. That night, after Mia was asleep, I called Daniels. I explained everything. The false reports. The harassment. The petition. She sighed. "You've already given us evidence that she knowingly lied. If she pursues this, her credibility is going to collapse in court. Especially with the recording. But you'll need an attorney." I hung up and sat in the dark, staring at my daughter's bedroom door. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about proving she was wrong. It was about showing Mia that I would never stop fighting for her. The next morning, I hired a lawyer. I handed over the file, the emails, the letters, the recording. Every drop of poison she'd ever tried to feed me. When the court date came, my mother walked in smug, confident. She wore her Sunday best dress and that smile she used to charm PTA meetings. She thought she had already won. But then my lawyer pressed play. Her voice filled the courtroom. The threats. The bragging. The promise to take Mia away. "If it's the last thing I do." My mother's face drained of color. For once she had no script. No mask. No control. And in that silence I knew. The war was almost over. The judge didn't even take long. After the recording played, after my lawyer laid out the timeline of false reports and harassment, after CPS confirmed their investigation had turned on her instead of me, it was over. The petition for visitation was denied. Permanently. The judge's words were calm, almost bored. But to me they felt like a release of chains I'd carried since childhood. "Miss Carter poses a clear risk of emotional harm. This court finds no grounds for forced contact. Case dismissed." My mother's mouth opened like she might argue. But nothing came out. She just sat there, trembling, eyes darting around the courtroom as if someone might come to her rescue. No one did. When it was done, I walked out holding Mia's hand. She skipped down the courthouse steps, oblivious to the war that had just ended. For her, it was just another sunny afternoon. For me, it was freedom. The texts stopped. The calls stopped. Even the family, the ones who once whispered that I was difficult, went quiet after hearing her voice for themselves. Some reached out with apologies, half-hearted olive branches. I didn't answer. Because here's what they never understood. Cutting someone off isn't cruelty. It's survival. Now, months later, my life is quiet. Peaceful in a way it's never been. I make pancakes with Mia on Sunday mornings. We paint our nails ridiculous colors. We laugh at silly movies. The silence in my home doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels safe. Sometimes, though, when the night is still and I'm lying awake, I think about that recording. About how many years I wasted believing her version of me. And I whisper to myself what I told her in that hallway, the night I finally shut the door. You don't win. You just think you do. Because the truth is I won. Not in court. Not with evidence. Not even with the recording. I won the moment I decided her voice would no longer define me, or my daughter. And that's the kind of victory she'll never understand.